our influence on the atmosphere. Now, some possible consequences of global warming. So, first one, the big one we hear about is the melting of polar ice caps and glaciers. And this could lead to a rise in sea level and the flooding of coastal cities. Um, Not only the melting of ice caps and glaciers adding water to the oceans, but also the oceans themselves expanding because if we increase temperature, as we increase the temperature of the oceans, they expand and they are taking up more space. In order to expand, they have to raise in level. Also, the spread of deserts into fertile regions due to droughts, usually, and then an increase in sea surface temperature, which again goes back to this whole idea of adding to sea level rise because the oceans are expanding, the water is expanding, an increase in the frequency and severity of storms, which we're kind of seeing now in the recent hurricane season, and then some of our thunderstorms and things like that. And then displacement of populations affected by these changes. So a big thing is all these coastal cities that are flooding, those people have to go somewhere. These areas where you have deserts forming, where you used to be able to grow crops, those people are going to have to move somewhere. So you're going to end up with populations, large populations of people having to move, having to relocate to new places. And then the burning of fossil fuels, including coal and oil and natural gas, increases atmospheric carbon dioxide. These fuels basically were produced by plants and animals that lived millions of years ago and died, and then the carbon that was in those organisms has been buried, so it's been taken out of the atmosphere until we dig them up and burn them. Now, this is the main way that humans add carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So 98% of these emissions in the United States come from burning fossil fuels to run automobiles, heat homes and businesses, and power factories. So a large part of our burning of fossil fuels goes for these activities. Now, almost any process that involves burning fossil fuels increases carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Burning fossil fuels can also release other greenhouse gases, such as methane and nitrous oxide, into the atmosphere. So it's not just the carbon dioxide. We have these other gases that are released in the atmosphere as well. Now, deforestation. So one of the things we kind of think about is, hey, plants take up carbon dioxide. Well, if we cut down the plants, then they're not there to do that. So deforestation is the mass removal of trees. So this is a forested area. This is a deforested area. This also plays a role in increasing levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. So vegetation removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during photosynthesis. Now, when we cut down the trees, total photosynthesis is reduced and more carbon dioxide remains in the atmosphere. So photosynthesis, we have carbon dioxide plus water with some sunlight, gives us glucose and oxygen gas. So this reaction in plants removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and turns it into sugars and starches in the plants. This is glucose, and that's the building block of most of the sugars and starches that make up plants. Now, this intensifies global warming and other effects of climate change. So as you're cutting down the vegetation, they're no longer able to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Now, energy conservation reduces CO2 emissions, so conserving energy reduces fossil fuel consumption. So since burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide, reducing fossil fuel consumption reduces CO2 emissions. There's some easy ways to conserve energy, so turn off electrical appliances and lights when not in use. If you're not using electricity, you're not having to burn coal or whatever to produce that electricity. Turn down the thermostat in the winter. So again, if you're using electricity for heating, this would directly impact the amount of electricity used, which would impact the amount of coal needed to produce that electricity. Or if you're burning natural gas, it would just be literally burning less natural gas. Recycling. When you make new products, especially trying to extract metals from ores, it takes a lot of electricity. So if you recycle, it takes a lot less energy to get, say, aluminum. It takes a lot less energy to recycle an aluminum can than it does to extract raw aluminum from, say, bauxite ore. Now, reduce the use of combustion engines such as those in cars and lawnmowers. So this is where the idea of more electric vehicles or more hybrid vehicles comes into play. So using less combustion engines would reduce the use of fossil fuels.